Yanhawane, Yanhawane. Those of you online, sometimes lately the screen share button disappears, so then I have to leave and come back. So, let's see. Anybody got questions? Should have a whole bunch of words, kind of you're forming a list. I think I'll start collecting the list and sort of going through. Next week, we'll probably start going over the lists, but any questions about that stuff?
When you told us that funny story about the dogs and their tail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you said it was all chaos, and I wonder if the word chaos is in that story.
Yeah, you say Yachyati, which I can write on the board. And this is used, I've heard it used as both a positive and negative sort of kind of chaos, like everybody was so happy it was kind of crazy. But it's probably most often used to be not in a very good way. Let me turn my spell check off. So Kutyacheti is literally, it's like a whirlpool. So a whirlpool is Kut. So Kutyacheti, it was like a whirlpool. It was chaotic. It was. This is also could be a response to Wasasiyati. It's say Kutyacheti achusti. My life is crazy. And then, we might laugh, it might be serious. It all depends on context, just like Ishan and a few other things where you could be just sort of being silly. But Kutyacheti could also be pretty serious. So they'll use this sometimes when they're talking about like a big fight happened. This will sort of be leading up to that fight. Things were getting out of hand, and so it's a pretty good phrase to have. Any other? So yachyati is the verb. So this is another thing, is there's a bunch of things that could have yachyati in front of it, or I mean after it. Yachyati means it was like that, right? And so this is how you would use all colors, technically. So Eish Yachyati, it was like a blue jay, so it was blue. Khan Yachyati, it's like fire, it's red. Su Yachyati, it's like a jade or a green stone, so it's green. Although in Teslin, they'll usually say Yachyati, and that is blue. So that's kind of interesting.
How do you spell that? Su?
Su. So Su, this is jade or green stone. Su. So Yachyati is what you would say after that. And then Kut is a whirlpool. And so Kut Yachyati is, it's like a whirlpool, but that means is chaotic. So there's a couple neat things in Tlingit. One is the churning, like fast-moving water is seen as pretty chaotic, but then they'll say Kaudaquwuhin would be like if you took water out of a river that was running from a glacier, and it's all silty and stuff, and if you just set that large glass down, and then all those sediments settled, that's called Kaudaquw. So Kaudaquwuhin is seen as peaceful. Like it was still enough that that it would settle. So the ways that one is used is, oops, what am I thinking? Kaudaquw. So Kaudaquwuhin, sometimes they'll say Yach. it's kind of a long phrase. You say, let your spirit be like settled water. And that's you're hoping that someone will sort of be calm. There's a couple things about being calm. Wudaga is another phrase. Wudaga means the tide is slack. So you could say, tuwu wudaga. And that also means I feel at peace, I feel at ease. My spirit is like the slack tide. So in Tlingit, there are some kind of more advanced concepts that are tied to the way that water moves. Fast-moving water is seen as being kind of chaotic. Still water is seen as being peaceful. And then there's a question about homework. And so Shagun could be with an H or it could be without it. But so Skoon or Shkoon, whichever you prefer. I usually say Shkoon because that's what my Uncle Johnny used to say. Shkoon ye jine is homework because it's the work you do for school. So ye jine is work. This could also be a verb, to she or he is working. But ye jine, it could also be a noun, to work. And so what you see is when that gets possessed, like we had talked about a while back, ends with this short high vowel, put a suffix on it, it'll push it long and low. So then you'll see ye jine ye. So then you'd say ach ye jine ye, my work, ye jine ye, shkun ye jine ye. So you're kind of just pushing a couple things together, and that's how you're going to get homework.
What's a tumult? Tumult. Tlingit enig.
Molt? Like
Others.
Oh, okay. Is that the same verb for like a snake shedding its skin?
I think so.
Spider? That's what I thought of. It's a good question. Let's see if it's in here. So when you open the Tlingit verb dictionary, you get these electronic versions, so you can enter the word, and what you might find is it says, you look up molt and it says see, fall out. So then we can clear our search history, and then we can go to F. We go down, fall, whole bunch of stuff. And falling, throwing, it depends what's falling, depends how, throwing rocks is different than throwing, dumping water out, and it's different than throwing feathers, so throwing multiple things. But here we're looking for fall out. So here we get ziqat. So what this is showing is gah, wu. So gah is duck. Ever say gah, wu. Ow is a feather, right? So gah, wu. And that would be out, if I were holding a duck, it should be gah, ow. Adadach. So there's, let's just say adadach. So in this case, do we know what the part is in there? It's, right? So it's. So I would have ach, you would have I, he or she would have du. Non-human things usually get right? And you can, if it's your dog or your cat, you can probably say du. You can make that distinction. I'd probably say du with my cat. And then da, there's two different types of da. one that means around or about something, and it's probably related, but I would say it's a different one, which means body. Achda, my body. Ida, right? Da, it could be like body parts, right? So da, dach, so what is the dach part? From. So ga, awu, duck feathers, a da, dach, from its body, is qatch. And that is a habitual form, which is saying it happens, right? It happens all the time. Ducks, their feathers fall out. If we want to see, and then we say ach shechawu ach shadach is qatch. So hair goes out the same way, right? And so this, as far as like what is this verb? So the thing is, we've got z, so we got a s plus d classifier z, and then you get qat. And so we're going to look up this qat verb so that we can see kind of how does the verb work. And so as we start to work with verbs more, then we're going to start looking at what's the classifier, what's the root, how do we sort of go and see it so we can see how we might use this in different forms. So alphabetically, we'll go down to the underlined G, scroll down, qat, to fall, right? And so this is something to fall, especially grain-like objects or things that tend to fall into a pile. So Tlingit is always trying to be like, no, it's that type of thing, it's that type of thing, it's that type of thing. Okay, so then, but buildings also fall down like that, so it just kind of depends. But we see tsiqat for molt, or for the hair to fall out.
But for an animal that molts just like once a year, that wouldn't be habitual. So use the perfective.
It depends how you're going to talk about it. Because if you're going to say every year they do that, then it would be habitual. But if you said that duck has molted, then you'd say wutzaqat. And if it's going to, then you'd say kaqwasqat.
I noticed in Da, the high tone is going satnach, and usually the high tone goes shinach.
Oh yeah. So let's go back to the fallout part. There's a couple things as you continue your journey with Tlingit to know about story and Naish. At the time that they're working, this is 40 years old. How old is this dictionary? It's amazing. There's a number of things to sort of note. One is there was just certain things that speakers just internalize all of this amazing information. And as we learn Tlingit, we realize there's a whole bunch of stuff that now we have to learn how to process. So at the time when Story and Naish were putting this together, there were some things that weren't fully understood about Tlingit. One is that you should mark what the conjugation class is. Every verb is a type of sort of action. It either comes to an end, it's ongoing, it's upwards, or it's downward. And it'll be put into this certain category, and it affects it in certain ways. The most common way that it affects it is you'll hear it in the command form. So if I want to say, eat it, anybody know how to tell someone to eat it? Eat it. Ha. Right, so there's nothing, but you don't hear anything before the verb, so we know that that's, or anything before the root, so it's a zero conjugation verb. Ha. And that's going to factor into all these other ways that you learn how to use it. If you want to tell someone to go to sleep, how do you say that? Natah. So the na part says, oh, that's na conjugation, right? If you want to say stand up, how do you tell someone to stand up?
I don't know.
Well, for multiple people, gaidanak. So the g part is going up. And if you want to tell people to sit down, qanu or qaiqi. So then you hear the q part. Q is down, g is up. Na is it's ongoing. 0 means it comes to this end. Another thing, and so Story and Naish didn't really document that. Jeff Lear usually does. Carrie Eggleston always does now. The dictionary of Tlingit does not, I don't think it has that information. Maybe it does. Then the other thing that nation story tend to do is they would write some things long that are actually short, right? And so, for example, this one, it doesn't really matter. Woo, shecha, woo. Those suffixes will always be long. Typically, we write them short now, but they could be said long or short. But there's other things in the verb prefix that sometimes they write long that we actually write short now because they are short. So they couldn't always hear when the vowel was short. They had a tendency to write them long. They also would write this downward tone, which we don't use anymore. We don't have to mark. Low tone is unmarked, high tone is marked. So this is something also we're going to start to wrestle with. Some things are just sort of that way, then we mark them when they're the other way. And we'll run into a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of like that. Any other questions?
This is an observation. I just think it is so brilliant of Tlingit to have the commands include the conjugation prefix, because the commands you're giving to kids, you know, you're not telling elders, keep, stand up, sit down. You're telling the kids, so the kids have this, you know, the first kind of information they get has this really important part of the verb on it.
Yeah, and then there's just going to be some fun logical things that we realize, like when we think of what type of verb is that. And when you hear yay in front of it, that means it's downward. Yay undagun, the sun shines down. That makes sense. But then like there's all the state verbs are going up. Ke kwak a. When you hear K in front of it, that means it's upward. It doesn't mean like it's literally going up. It just means it's considered that type of verb. Ke kwak a. It's going to be good. It's going to get, it'll be better, right? Ke guchtlitzin. It's going to be strong. Ke kakwanik. She or he's going to get sick, right? There always are these upward types of things. So we have up, down, ongoing, coming to an end. And we're just going to have to keep thinking about it. Eventually, it'll settle into our brain. It may not make sense all the time to our English brain, but it doesn't have to. You say, okay, English brain, this is how the world is. Okay. So let's walk through the rest maybe of this chapter. I think we did all of this. I think we were here. So this is another thing where you could learn how to say a clan house. And there's one more way that I was listening to a recording, and I heard somebody say this. The first way is we could say, well, let's pick a name. Someone give me a name of a clan house.
Box house.
Box house, okay? So box house, we're going to write, wait, let me pull up a little note here. Hold on. We'll do this in 2 parts. Do a little sticky note. Okay. So the box house on its own, sorry. Go that way. Okay. So the box house, Cochiti.
Cochiti.
Cochiti. Cochiti. Cochiti. A really fun thing about Tlingit, there's lots of fun things, but this is a different house to a totally different clan that's actually the opposite, right? This was, I think, was a Qanakh Addi house a long time ago. So the first one would say Cochiti.
Cochiti.
The second one would say Cochiti.
Cochiti.
The first one would be Cochiti.
Cochiti.
The second one would be Cochiti.
Cochiti.
And they actually both moved out of their houses and they each became a clan. So you have Cochiton and you also have Cochiton. And they are opposites. I don't know if it ever happened, but I want to meet someone who is, like their parents are both, and so they could say, I'm Cochiton, but I'm Cochiton Yeti. And so that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's okay, that's okay. But so Cochit, we'll pick that one. That one is Kagwantan. Cochit is actually, they call themselves a lot of times Cochiton. There's another thing for Teslan speakers, when they have an O sound, oo, and some kind of K at the end, or an X, they'll switch to the O sound. It's really neat. But anyways.
Isn't that an effect of the backness, the uvularization, pulls that vowel?
Yeah, I think so.
More of an O.
Because it does take a little bit of more work to keep it that long vowel, I think. Oh.
Less work to make O.
Yeah. Yeah, and so a lot of times they'll say coach. So you'll hear them say that too sometimes. And so it's something about those K, G, X sounds and that double O. Something about those combinations that's really interesting. So anyways, we look up here. Yes. Oh, okay. What is kook? Anybody know what kook is?
Rice.
In English?
Cellar?
It's a cellar, right? Or pit. So it's a pit where the house is going to be built. It's down by the fire in an old clan house, or it's a cellar. Okay. And that is kook. But we'll stick with the first one. So to say this whole phrase, so we'll say, I'm going to go back and forth between you and ye. But that's okay. I'll try to say you this time. We'll say, Cochit, you do a sock.
Cochit, you do a sock.
Ha na kahiti.
Anakahidi.
Cochit, you do a sock.
Cochit, you do a sock.
Ha na kahiti.
Anakahidi.
So there's a couple things to think about here. One is that you do a sock could mean him, her, or it. It's called this, she's called that, he's called this. So if you're ever naming all kinds of stuff, our clan house, this building, this car, whatever it is, you could use this you do a sock for objects or for people. Right? And then the other thing is you can have a noun that comes right after to specify what thing you're talking about. And that could be it could be English as well. You could say, Nadak, you do a sock table, right? You could say that. And then, so here you have ha, and what kind of thing is that?
No.
Plural possessive, our, ha-ani, ha-shagun, ha-shuka, ha-shishkohas, right? There's something special about sharing in Tlingit because there's certain words that become really big things when you put ha in front of it. And then you've got na. So na on its own, that end with the two A's, is like a clan or a nation or a tribe. And so you're going to see it in a few different places, like qunna na. Qunna means something different. And then I was at a language conference last year, and there were, what language were they? Upper Tanana, I think. And they're like, and somebody knew me there, and they said, "Oh, we got a word for Tlingit. It means like alien or something like that." And they laughed. I was like, "We just call you other people. I don't care." So then we got the ha, na, kahiti. So kahiti would mean like, technically it means like a house on top of something. We usually hear da kahiti, right? But kahiti, na kahiti. You could probably literally say that's house on top of the clan. But, or clan is on top, na ka. So, yeah, I would think of it as house on top of the clan. But really, it just constructed means clan house, right? There used to be Nakahiti Theater here years ago. Nakahiti. That's a clan house. Shikakwan Nakahiti. So Nakahiti on its own is, and Tlingit likes to compound things all the time. This thing plus this thing plus this thing. It's that kind of thing. So Nakahiti, Ha Nakahiti, our clan house. So this is where you'd usually put the name of that house. And then, but it could be, another way you could say it is you could say, Cochiti Aya Ha Nakahiti. Cochiti Aya Ha Nakahiti. So again, that verb is sort of, it's there if you want to use it. You don't need to have it. It's just sort of showing you you got variations in the patterns that you could put together. But then you could use this. So now you've got the you do a sock, name, you do a sock, thing. Chitkatit, you do a sock, achkla. Kachkes, you do a sock, achsik. So you could put kinship terms at the end. Now you can tell us all about your whole family, right? And then it could go really far. And we're going to get to kinship and learn how to do that. So you could say, because it's a very Tlingit thing to do, right? They'll say, how do you relate to that person? Like, oh, well, that's my mother's father's sister's son. And she's married to him, right? And so it's like, you could walk that thing around in Tlingit. And so, but this is the way that sometimes you want to talk about this stuff too, telling stories about. So what does the term Shagun mean?
Our ancestor.
Yeah, so it's our ancestors, right? But it could be our history. A lot of times when we hear Shagun, it's not Shogun, get out of here. That's what I do. Okay, there we go. And then where's my little sticky? Okay. So this term on its own, Shagun, and this is really, things get really fun in Tlingit because some words they change when we put ha in front of it, especially, it could change. So if I say Shagun, a Shagun, it could mean its history, its origin, like Yaguk a Shagun, Yidekakwanik. I'm going to tell you about the Shagun of this cup. Maybe I'm going to tell you like how I bought it. Maybe I'm going to tell you like how I came to have it. Maybe I'll tell you how it was made. I might tell you about if you took it apart, all of its pieces would kind of be Shagun. And so on its own, it kind of means those things, like the things that make it up, its history, its origin. And if you say Shagun, it changes a little bit. That means that's my family, my lineage. Particularly like going up in generations. This is my mother, my father, their parents. And so you say, I'm going to tell you about my lineage. But when we say Shagun, that usually means our ancestors. It's a big one of these, I'll probably write them in capital letters. Okay.
Is there an opposite for that? So like descendants?
Yeah. Well, so
But
just like Shagun, you could also say Hashishkuhas. And that's, even though that could be translated as like, me and my brother here are talking about my grandparents, a lot of times that's used to talk about our ancestors as well. Hadachkankisani or Hadachkankiyan, but especially Hadachkankisani, which we sort of put as, no, I'm using these little things. So this one means our little grandchildren, and that's usually like future generations, right? So that's how we look into the future, is sort of there. And another way is you'd say, ha'itikahu. So ha'ite. Ite is a really neat word in Tlingit. To start to understand how ite works, I'll use a silly metaphor. I guess it's not even a metaphor. Let's say I was eating like Cheetos in particular. And then I got done and I had all this orange stuff on my hand. I could say Cheeto ite. It's what's left over when it's gone. It's an imprint, the remains, but it could also mean like a room, right? And so there's a whole bunch of combinations that you could find with this. Chus is foot. Chus ite. What do you think that is? Footprint. Gun is a fire, especially a campfire. Gun ite. What do you think that is?
Ashes.
Not ashes, but like the charred earth where the fire was. Like, you ever come up and you see where somebody had built a fire? Gun ite. Ha ite. Hahu. The people who are in our remains. We are gone, they are there. And then there's other big ways that they talk about this. The old people, they'll say, hastu itik awe uhan. Or no, they'll say, hastu itik akedich awe uhan. We are the seeds in the place where they used to be. That's other big conceptual stuff. They'll talk about people being seeds. Like literally, the akedi is a seed, and it's a fun compound. We're going down the road of compounds. That's pretty fun. But I'm gonna switch to this one. Sorry. So, oops. So this is a seed, and there are certain things where we put that line in front of it because it needs to belong to something. You need to say akedi, it's seed. Or you could say akedi, apple seed, Johnny akedi, right? And you could say keshish akedi, seeds for an alder. All kinds of things would be seeds, right? And then seed is pretty fun because it's made up of these parts. There's which is the point of something, especially a branch. Ka, which is on something. So on the point, or on the branch, the tip of the branch. At, thing. And then I, that relational sort of suffix. So there's a whole bunch of words that we'll start to learn how to break down. And hopefully that breakdown does help us to sort of see how that word works, help us remember it, because some of the words are really long. You realize there's just different parts in there. Yeah. So you can say, you do a sock blank, right? It could be all kinds of stuff too, right? So you could say, you do a sock, right? And then this is a good exercise too. If you want to have students come in with family trees, they can walk through, they learn that if they don't know the Tlingit name, that's fine. They could use English names. But just to sort of talk about who they are, who their people are, get to know each other a little bit more. This is an exercise that you could work on. You could just get some pictures of family members and ancestors, and then you could just talk about them. And then from there, we could start to learn how to do other things. They were born here. They were raised here. They moved there. They used to do this kind of thing, right? So the other way is if you say you are ye de Shagun, everybody say ye de Shagun.
Ye du Shagun.
Ye de Shagun.
Ye du Shagun.
So they used to be called that, not anymore. So this, once you say it this way, we know you're talking about someone who's deceased. So this is another way to just sort of communicate a couple different things, right? By standing up and saying this, you're sort of, you can, because it's always good to acknowledge your relatives in certain situations. Like if I go somewhere and they knew my grandpa, and I might just say, "Gushtahin ye disagen achlil te kanch sai Dennis achladu ish awa." That was, my grandfather was named Gushtahin. In English, he is Sai Dennis. That was my mother's father. And so now this is just learning how to relay more and more, just kind of starting to stack up information.
So this is not somebody who changed their name,
No, well, I guess technically it would work,
but it doesn't feel right if you
yeah,
use
like
it that way.
Prince, ye do
So the name of the person comes first, ye du Shagun, and then the relationship.
Yes. Or the thing, because it could be this building was called, something, but Sobolov Annex, ye du Shagun, ya achjechini ite. But the building that I worked in was called the Sobolov Annex. It's gone. They crushed it.
Oh.
Okay. So, back to the hit. There was one more way. So you can have clan house. Oops. And you could say yidach. You say yidach.
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 So that literally means from the inside of a building. So you could say, I could say if I'm, and again, you could say ayachat, but if you're introducing yourself, we already know who you're talking about. It would just be kind of strange if I said, my name is Chune, I'm Shukach Adi, my father's from that house, right? It's just, if it's not you, then you might want to specify. But otherwise, I might say, Chune aya achsayi, Shukach Adi awe uhan, ye hit ye dach. I could just say that. Or I could say, Shukach Adi chatzati, ye hit ye dach, ye hit aya hanakahiti. It's kind of up to you as you do this exercise more. You just sort of pick things that are comfortable. And if we're doing introductions, usually we try and keep them short these days. But if you're sitting down in a conversation with somebody and they want to know who you are, this is how you can start to construct that stuff. So then there's these different groups like Ak, Skut, Jishkat, Ate, Tanta. And so you could say Dach, there's different things you could say. I just think you just say Kwan and you're fine. Because we already know, again, we're talking about you. You could say Ayachat, but you don't have to. Right? But this is another one. It needs to belong to something. And it's usually a specific place. Shkat Kwan, Henya Kwan, Sanya Kwan. There are these established Kwans in Tlingit territory. And within those Kwans, you have a group of clans. And within those clans, you often have houses. Right? Okay. So everybody say Kwan,
Kwan.
Kwan,
Kwan.
and then no matter where you live, the Kwan is where you're from. And it's sort of a thing that's up to you and your family and your clan. Because you could be born in Anchorage, but your clan house is from Haines, but then you could find out later, whoa, I was actually given this name and it comes from Dry Bay. So there's been times it's been explained to me that you are from where your name is from.
I was born in Cake, and I remember some of my friends like, "You're not from Cake. You're from Huna. You're not Cakewan. You're Hunakawu." And I was like, through traditional Tlingit, yes. It's like, but I was born in Cakewan.
So yes, so then you can, in the context of conversations, right? So we're gonna, the one right after so this is where you're from, and that's just sort of like, where you from, right? Because someone could live somewhere, someone could be born somewhere and not be considered from there. That's just how it goes. You're from where your house is from. Your name comes, and this is the At'u thing, is your name belongs to a clan, but it actually belongs to a house of that clan. That's typically how it works. But that's up to individual clans, right? Like that. And if your clan says, this is who you are and this is where you're from, and if someone else says, no, you actually say, get in my clan instead of our business. That's what I think. And then you also don't get into other clans' business, right? That's not your thing. That's their thing. So the sovereignty of clans is very important. But also, we just have to know that this information isn't as common as it used to be. So we can certainly assist people if we're teaching them. We can help them, but we yield to those, especially elders of the other clans. If we say something and they say, well, my grandma says this, say, well, listen to grandma.
When you explained kawu before, what is the word derived from?
So there's, it comes from this, a person or a man. So ka, and if we want to possess ka, which you do to say like, my boyfriend, kawu. It's got a hidden rounded ending. There's only a couple words that have that. And this is one of the gendered things in Tlingit, where it could mean man, but there's a different one that actually just means person. And English is similar, right? When they say from the dawn of man, and English, gendered language, you gotta be careful with gender and language too, because then it is male the default and other things like that. But kawu is a person belonging to a place.
So in Glacier Bay, that was then used rather than Guam.
So my understanding is they probably had some sort of Quan, but I don't know what the specific place it was tied to. And when that glacier pushed them out of Glacier Bay, then they settled in Huna, and they wanted to go home, but they weren't allowed to. So then they referred to themselves as Hunakawu. But that's, I might not have it right. But what I was told is they prefer Kawu over Quan because they want to go back to Glacier Bay where their home is.
My understanding.
And so Kawu, it just means a person, like Kawu, and then Shawati. But usually when you're using those terms, that's not like my man, that's like my boyfriend, right? That's what people are going to think of if you use those terms. Okay. So then you could be living in a place. So where are we going to live? Okay, we'll try Zantikihini, right? So wherever the place is, you put after it. This is a suffix which means to be resting or residing at a place. So it's specifically kind of at rest. So we'll say Zantikehini.
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 Zantikehini yechatyati.
Santa Kahini. Ye Cochiti.
So ye Cochiti. Ye
Cochiti. Ye.
high, low, low, low. So if I said Zante Kahini ye Cochiti, how would I say she lives in Zante Kahini? Zante Kahini ye yeti. Right? Zante Kahini ye yeti. How would I say you live in Zante Kahini? Ye yeti. Right? Zante Kahini ye yeti. Right? So, and this just means that's where I live. And it's interesting because I don't have to be there. I could be in Shakwe. Kuksai Nathi. Zantiki, or I'd say Ak, Yeti, Ach Nathi. Right? So this is where you live, right? And you get the after it. I live in Cake. And it's best to use the Tlingit name of the place so we can look that up. So instead of saying Yakutat or Skagway, Sitka, Ketchikan, right? Ketchikan, Yechatgeti. There's a lot of these places that come from Tlingit names. Shawak, Ketchikan, Yakutat. So then, I didn't have the thing. I thought I had. Okay, we'll have to add this one. So there's that one, and let's add one more. So this one, we're going to write it right over there. Very small.
You can't see it.
All right. This is not the best program for it. Okay. So there, we're going to sort of just put our sticky note over the top of it. And it's insisting, I know how to spell Cochiti, you don't know me. Okay. So this would be, I was born at that place. Right? So I could say, oops, sorry, I spelled it wrong. Maybe this computer does know something. That's hilarious. You don't know what I'm doing? Oh, you do know what I'm doing. Now it's more correct. You're a genius, computer. Sorry I ever doubted you.
Still in labor, huh?
Cochiti means to exist. So I do technically exist, but Cochiti is to be born. Right?
Uh-huh.
This is also this is the exact same verb for kusti, which means life, which you could also say ha kusti. So it's all interrelated, right? Kudziti, to be born. Kudziti, to exist. Kusti, life. Akusti, our way of life, our culture. Akusti, my life, right? Akusti, you don't know my life, right? So that's how you could say where you were born. Because all of this stuff, it's all part of you, but it could be different. We all can, maybe I was born in Heidelberg, but my people, my clan comes from here, right? I was born in Seattle, and if you're not Tlingit biologically, this stuff can still apply to you. You still have people. You're a person of a place. But that's for you to decide, right? Like maybe, and then, but the Kwan is usually it's tied to a place name. It could, I don't know if you'd say like German Kwan. That wouldn't really feel right to me. But to say like some place in Germany that your family's from, that would work, right? Like London Kwan, you could say that. Washdown Kwan. And it doesn't always have to become Tlingitized, I don't think. But it's kind of up to you. But the language is not tied only ethnically to Tlingit people. Everybody could be born somewhere, could live somewhere, could be from somewhere. Okay.
You don't need the sound at the end of Kwan. I mean, to
No.
have a place name.
No, because Kwan, it just takes that place name and then Kwan. The other thing with Kwan is we'll do one more thing with this, then we'll do, we'll go down to which clan are you, and then we'll take our break, we'll do some vocabulary, and then we'll do something a little different. So, Kwan, people of a place. But when you take a noun, especially some sort of living thing, and you say Kwani, right? So it's spelled exactly the same as this, but it gets an I at the end. Now you're talking about interacting with those things as human beings. This is when people get taken by the kushta or the fish people. And it's not like you see them, and it could be you see them and they look like human beings. This is what happened to people long ago. This can still happen to people. But also, if you're going to talk to them as human beings, which is just sort of, in Tlingit, we talk to everything with a great deal of respect. And we could say, As Gata is a forest. When we say As Kwani, the tree people. And you say Chat Kwani, the fish people. And maybe you want to say a prayer to them, a blessing. This is part of the Tlingit thought world. And it doesn't have to be in conflict with anything else. This is just part of our perspective in our language. But that Kwani, they might say, she was with the frog people. And things have happened where you go into their houses and they look like people and they live in houses and they take their skins off. That's a related term, Kwani. And so that's something you'll see in some of the stories sometimes. Or if people are just talking about some of these larger Tlingit concepts. Okay, 2 more things. So asking what clan you are. Isiti. So which one of those? You are of a clan. Which clan are you a member of? Right? So this siti verb is really to be like a member of a group. There's a group of a clan, there's a group of professions, there's a group of, you could say, Wachwan Sati. She or he is a police person. You could say, Tau Tzatich Sati. She or he is a thief, right? And so it could be like they're part of a group. And so in Tlingit, we think of them as groups. The part goes on the group, then the sati comes. Nachsa is sati. So we pay attention. There is only one high tone in there. So it shouldn't be nachsa is sati, right? We got to watch for it going all over the place. Nachsa is sati. Mm-hmm. Baby, right? And then they can answer with their clan. They can say raven or eagle. And then you could say, where are you from? Which clan or which community are you from? Which kwan are you from? And so the answer to this wouldn't be shqakwe. It would be shqut. we should, and the map is at the end, I think right at the end. Oh wait, no. So the rest of this chapter, and we're going to skip this part, but you can certainly take a look at it. So it goes through plural pronouns, which I don't think we did in here, but we know ha and ye, maybe in hastu. But we're going to work on, I guess we worked on those a little bit. And then it goes into this section that just sort of tries to list the known clans. There's a few of them I know I have to add. This is a big project that has involved a lot of people, which they're given credit at that beginning section. This is not my knowledge. This is not intended to tell anybody where they're from. This is just trying to get an idea of how all this stuff works. And the way it works, from the way it's been explained to me, is there was a series of migrations. From these migrations came these big groups, and from these big groups came the actual clans themselves. A lot of these clans are very closely related. They come from these same migrations and sometimes the same branch off of this big migration. There were probably about 5 major migrations for Tlingit. And then there was a bunch of smaller ones too. And so one of the things that I'm hoping to just sort of keep track of is just the name of the clan, what that name might translate to, where they originate from, when we say primary and secondary crests, that doesn't mean one's more important. All it means is what are you most likely to see when they're putting all their atu out. And then the secondary crests are the other ones that they use. But keep in mind that just because there's a crest on there, especially a secondary one, that might be only that one from this clan uses that. But again, that's clan specific. It's always just a draft. People are always telling me stuff that needs to be added or fixed or changed, and I change it when people ask. The other thing it lists is what clan they're located in and what houses would be there. And so it goes first the Cochiti, that's how it was explained to me, to say all the eagle clans, and then it goes down to the Cochiti, all the raven clans, and then down to the Nechadi, which are kind of outside of the two-sided part, right? It's a clan that is just a little bit separate in terms of not really considered eagle side, raven side, but those in Ketchikan would know more about that than I do. But that's what this is for, so we can help sort of piece together. We've got lots of people who just say, what clan are you? And then say, Beaver, right? And so this is to help us to sort of track it and say, oh, you're a Beaver clan, or where are you from? Oh, you're from Angoon, because a Beaver could be Nechadi, could be Deshitan, it could be Cochiti, and it could be Gashiachagwantan, right? So that doesn't tell us, and so trying to get that back to the clan. And then there's certain ones that they might have the name in there, but maybe they come from different sort of migrations. So, okay.
Where's this information?
It's in the beginning Tlingit workbook. And so that's what we're going through here. And then, so when we come back, we'll do a few nouns and we'll do something a little different. So let's take 10 and then we'll start up again. Sheesh. Come out this evening. Let's just do a brief kind of check-in. I think as we sort of go farther along with this semester and hopefully next semester, we'll be doing a little bit more sort of, now it's your turn. Let me hear and let us hear how you can say these things and put these things together. But I like when we sort of first get started, for like the first month, is you're not doing a whole bunch of stuff individually on your own, because it can get scary to stand up in front of the universe and say little swans or something like that. But not looking for a language performance per se, but I'm just looking for how's it going? Let's make sure that we're not, because whether you're in the class or online, I want to make sure it doesn't feel like this thing is just flying past you. There's the feelings I think that we tend to get as we learn a language, they're complex. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, sometimes we feel like confident, sometimes we don't. There's all kinds of things that are part of the language learning experience that we want to just go ahead and talk through. And so that we can strategize and make sure that everybody feels kind of good. So basically we're doing this two-part sort of thing for intermediate Tlingit. We're doing a walkthrough of the beginning Tlingit lessons and taking a close examination of what those things are showing us and looking under the hood a little bit more. And then we're also putting some intermediate concepts on there. The first one was modifying nouns, using possessive pronouns. The next one's going to be relational and directional terms. So we'll be sort of going through both of those things at the same time. But I guess let's go online first. The first person I see on my list is Anya Nachtla. Just a little check-in. How's it going? You're building a list of words. Any questions? Anything that's going to make it better?
I think can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm doing pretty well. Just dissecting verbs is a little bit challenging, trying to find what the actual root, like the verb root is. I don't know, it's just hard for me to think of the most useful words and compiling a list of what I would actually utilize in conversation. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, Cheesh. Oudagan, eat for her.
Well, like you said, you got my email, but I'm not really feeling that confident in retaining it very well. And so your last clarification was more comforting, I guess. Because as you know, like in beginning, you're kind of constantly saying the same words over and over. And as we were doing that and watching the slides, most of the time for me, the only way I retain something is if I write it down. So I sometimes have to write it over and over and over again for it to stick. And the majority of my time, I'm not in a place where people speak it. So that was, the other email that I sent you. So I think that if I just kind of keep on hanging in there and we keep checking in, I think that it'll be okay. And I'm just, maybe if you're able to respond or something to the email and show me maybe what I'm doing wrong or correct it, just to make sure I'm on some kind of right track, because I'm kind of only checking in with myself and I'm like, I have no idea if I'm doing this right.
Okay, Cheesh. Bill, eat for her.
Working on it. I'm getting a little bit more just from tonight. You've clarified some things about where I'm from. I'll say I'm Tohink. Well, anyway, and I walk around and I try to call things by their Tlingit name as I learn them, and eventually I'll have a vocabulary. And then I don't ever have anybody to talk to. I only go to town about once a month. I live out here on Marble Island. And the only time I get to hear people speak is, oh, by the way, I got a good recording from the Alaska Heritage Institute. They just sent me a CD today of some things I was interested in, and I'm getting a book to go along with it on an interlibrary loan. And so things are happening here on Marble Island, but it's all by myself.
Okay. There's a lot of us that might not have people to talk to. So yeah, that's a good thing to talk through, like strategies too. So excellent. Cochiti.
Everything's going well. I just had one question. The 15 nouns, 5 verbs, and there was 3 of something. I never got that written down.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something else. They could be relational nouns, relational bases, we might call them, or they could be adjectives or adverbs. That's what I would, there's little particles and stuff. I would say, let's not do like a weh, they're a little too small, but relational terms, so like under, over, around, those types of things, or an adjective or adverb. It's kind of up to you, but those are the 3 sort of categories that I would focus on, not the interjections like ha'eh or haqana, right? We're looking for just something that's going to be more like something you could string to other things. So that's really one of the goals of having you pick these things, is just starting to see how we keep putting these things together. Okay.
Could you say these people's names again for us, and maybe they can tell us their names and where they're from, so we can start to get to know them a little bit?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, let's do that on Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday we'll do more get to know you. I know I never distributed a list. I'm terrible with follow through. But yes, that's a great idea. So that was Cochiti.
Okay. Okay, so I'm still working on my list, and I think the most useful thing for me to be doing, and so it's hard to decide, what to put down, is to pick words and verbs that I would be using in my teaching. And because I really think I use way too much English when I'm teaching Tlingit, as far as giving instructions and so on. So one of my new words is going to be balloon, which I have not learned yet because we always play balloon volleyball. And I've been calling it a Cochiti just because we're hitting it around. But I should call it a balloon. That's what it is. And I found the word in the dictionary. That's just an example. Okay, so I'm working on my list. And I just really appreciate this class. And I think that this is really going to help me in my teaching. And my teaching is going to help me in my learning of the material, if I choose wisely what I'm going to be practicing. So I have Yoji here. She's going to talk, I think.
Yeah, I didn't really well, I have a list, but I'm not too sure if I'm doing this right either. But the verbs I want to do are like, what do you see, and where are you going, stuff like that. And mostly right now I have is animals like birds and fish, and because I was talking about what do you see, and like hunting and fishing would tie into that. But so that's all I have right now.
Okay, I believe balloon is katu'uchuat. It's thing that you blow onto, thing that a person blows onto. Okay. Let's see. Kuwatang. Itkoaha.
She's not here today. She's hired at a job, so she's tired. And my sister-in-law, when she texts me in the morning, she'll do it in Tlingit. And then she says it in English after she picks up my kids to take them to school in the morning. So she'll text me when she's on her way, and she'll type it in Tlingit first. My brother has also been another person that I can talk to, but there's one word, I think I'm saying it right, I'm not sure, for glasses, Wakadana.
Wakdana. Yeah.
My son just recently got his glasses in, and I've been using that with him quite a bit.
Okay. Sheesh. Let's see. Shikuzi shawat itkoha.
To be honest, I am generally completely lost through a majority of the class. I made the mistake of overscheduling myself, and even currently now on Tuesdays, I have to leave during the last half hour of the class, and that's generally when I get the opportunity to actually practice the language. And I'm having such a hard time staying in English brain, trying to acquisition Tlingit words. It's just I'm too old for that. But if I get conversational phrases like "you say this, I respond this way," that tends to be a little bit more easy. It's just more like muscle memory as opposed to, oh, I have to try to translate this from this. And I spend a majority of the time cross-eyed. I have started accumulating a list. Mostly I'm focusing on words that I would use with my kids, both my own children and students. So it's stuff like go get your shoes, where is your coat, homework is a good one, what are you doing? You know, that kind of stuff would be very useful for me.
Okay, gnus cheesh. Go ahead, Juan. Juan Shane itkoha.
Gunatish Gune Chataya Sheetkadach. I'm in Sitka at the library. I came here to Mount Edgecombe on Sunday, so I've been here a couple of days, but I head home tomorrow. And I just want to thank you and fluff you up a little bit about everything that you're doing. I really appreciate being able to see the beginning Tlingit in color. I did email you. I don't know if you got it. And I'm teaching beginning Tlingit in the Dauenhour 4th edition, and then rounding it out with some assessments through See Alaska, and then showing this workbook on the Promethean board. So everything's being well done if I just do it rote, you know, like what I see. And everything that you've been teaching me, like you say, getting under the hood and showing us how it works. I think I can put some things together. I know a lot of nouns, and I know your, you know, dasaya, dasawe, chataya, adusawe, gusuwe. I learned dauk ana, sa, isati, and I can ask which color is the kuhida, kachu, uch, yachiti. I can say a few things like that. I'm very interested in talking about helping. And the one thing, as I was reading through however you say the book that I'm really groggy because I had 3 surgeries. I lived, yay. But I'm having, like, you know, when you say chatzachan, I just can't quite get that. You know how the noun comes first, or the object and the subject. I have kind of like dyslexia. I have a hard time, but I'm doing it, you know. It's interesting to know it, but to actually understand, because if you memorize and you can do it, that's all great. But then when you have to think about what you're really doing, it's really confusing to me. However, I have your Tlingit to paper cook in front of me, and it says nouns, and there's a place for 5 nouns, and then postposition, location, spatial relation, and then adverb, adjective, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what that is. I could write you down a bunch of nouns. The things that you have been saying, I have been writing down, and I like the idea of saying the first one, now let's begin, and then like turn the page, or it's just really interesting. Like, I saw somebody and I said to them, eek, gun, shachawu yachyete chayesa. What does that mean?
Eek gun shechawu Yesu, is that what?
Chayesa.
Yesu is still.
I asked her, is your brother's hair still gold color? And that came out of my mouth. I don't even know where it came from.
Yeah,
and I said, whoa, did I talk Tlingit? I couldn't believe it. So I still remember it because I said it. And I was like, holy macaroni. Because I always just, dog, cat, bird. But I really appreciate the class, and I do whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing. One thing I wanted to ask you before I stop with my long-windedness is that you said about a bird last week, something on a coffin. What was that flying thing?
Moss on a coffin?
Yeah, that was, first of all, going to cheese. And so we'll do a few more check-ins too, so that it doesn't, so that if it feels like that everything's just rushing by, we'll take time. And you can always sort of just interrupt my flow, because I'm sort of like, we're going to go here, and I will just drive and go into my own universe. And so feel free to say, hold on. Let's do that thing. Let's make sure I understand that thing. So ka is a possessive pronoun meaning someone's or a person's or people's. Dakate is a container. So daka'at, right? That's all it means, like thing around the outside. Dakedi is the possessed form. Ka dakedi, person's container, is a coffin. Klach is mold. Klachi. And I got to use this with my kid, not coffin. I didn't use coffin with my kids, but they were like, what's blue cheese? It's what's blue cheese like? I said, klach, yach, it tastes like mold to me. Sorry if you like blue cheese. Hadakedi klachi literally means mold on a person's coffin, and it is a type of butterfly. That one was given to me told to me by Nora Dowenhauer. We were trying to figure out like butterfly, and she told us it was a really cool name. Okay. And I'm making notes. I'll have some responses here for most everybody. Yakdushe, Yitchoha.
I feel like I'm getting along farther than at the beginning of the class. That's a good thing. I think this class has really had me face in being brave in using Tlingit everywhere. So I take the moments I need to look things up. If I ask what it is called in Tlingit, I use phrases every day with my children, and I try to use, if I know the phrase in Tlingit, I use that first, and I'm not afraid to answer translate for those that don't understand, so that I get better with my speaking abilities. Because down here in Ketchikan, I meet with a group once a week to practice, but got to use it every day. I've attempted translating some things for practice. I know that verbs definitely provide their challenge, and I think translating to its proper context, if that makes sense. So I know, like, for example, like hearing, I think you've given the example, so when you're sharing something versus like storytelling, you know, that there's different ways to say certain things. So I guess I'm looking forward to a little more verb practice and understanding, so that way I can start piecing together. I know with nouns, I know during workouts, you know, I'm labeling body parts. I take it down to possessive and things like that. So I feel like I'm getting along well. As far as the class, I think just building this list was a really awesome motivator to keep track of where I'm at. So gonna chish Lune.
Okay, gonna chish. Yede kuka, itqa.
I am having a little bit of a hard time committing to a list because I have a lot of things that I want to learn to say, because I feel like there are a lot of different places I could be trying to learn or trying to incorporate Tlingit. I mean, there are things I'd love to put in my classroom, just, you know, as a high school social studies teacher. I also lead 2 dance groups, and so, you know, phrases that I could use with my dancers would be really appealing. I give speeches in town for different occasions, like, you know, I'll be speaking next week for Indigenous Peoples Day at UAS, and then I often speak at Elizabeth Peradovich Day, and I can do, you know, the basic introduction of myself, but I guess just trying to incorporate more Tlingit into speeches is another thing. And then I've recently taken to making new songs, so I made 3 new songs last year, 2 of which were just, you know, entrance and exit, so those are just kind of vocables, but yeah, I did make a men's dance song for my late grandmother. And so Dastia and Kitla provided the Tlingit for what I wanted to say. And I have more things I'd like to compose and that I'd like to say. And so there are phrases I'd like to learn there. So I guess I'm just having a really hard time nailing down what it is that I'd like to have. I know we're just supposed to be, you know, looking for a list, but I'm still kind of focused on what things within that construct that I'd like to know that will be the most useful for me in those different contexts. I've really been enjoying, as we've been moving into the patterns, especially the ones that, you know, we can just plug in hut and e and hus, because those ones, you know, aren't as complex as the verbs we're going to be getting into, and they're really super useful to learn some of those basic phrases that are all just sort of constructed the same way, because then that's that many more things that I can say now. But I'm also really excited to start looking more at the structure and the grammar and the verbs, because I'd like to start sitting down with Kitla and Dastia when they do their language apprenticeship with my cousin Shagun and also Cassie. But I'd like to feel a little bit more competent before I try hanging with that much Tlingit around me. So I'm super excited as we're moving into the more complex grammar.
Okay, good chish.
Gunachish Yaniqua Achletuch Yaniqua. But I've been enjoying the class, even though it has been tough this school year. This school year has been Kuth Yachyati so far, but it's good to make time, and it's good to get more serious about Tlingit. So I guess the one thing that I was still really curious about, because it came up for me a couple weeks ago, do you know anything about the vocabulary that the Tlingit code talkers might have used? Is there any record of that?
Okay, gonna sheesh. Well, first of all, we'll come into the room. I want to just share like something a little light with the gang, because sometimes things get intense with just language learning and with just sometimes a reality check and the self-assessments and being aware as a language learner and moving from, we're still list building, but we're doing more. We're actually sort of saying, hey, let's construct a whole like other universe inside your mind, right? And it's a big thing. It's a huge thing. And so sometimes you can't really see this thing. It's not very bright, but it's Mordor, and it's the big eye from Lord of the Rings, and says Ich Satine, which is I see you. Just to kind of be funny, because verbs are big monsters, right? And so it's like we're going towards verb land. And so we'll just say every now and then, just say, hey, look, there's the big eyeball staring at us. And then we'll just sort of go and do some other things. And where the metaphor doesn't work is it's not some big scary thing that's going to try and kill us, right? It's just something, it's just to sort of laugh a little bit about this journey. For code talkers, I don't know. They were all, as far as I know, I think they all passed away by the time people even knew that there were Tlingit code talkers. I mean, some families knew that their family members were code talkers. I remember when they made the coin and they acknowledged the Tlingit code talkers, there were some who said, that was my dad. I didn't even know he was a code talker. So it was a pretty quiet thing, but I do know I can ask. There's one person I know that I could ask because his father was a code talker. And so I'll see if he knows anything about it. We will go through these others, and we're going to go through the folks in the room too. I just want to share one other funny thing just to lighten, the mood a little bit. And not that we have to always avoid the sort of the depths of the struggle, because sometimes language acquisition is a struggle, but we can also have fun while we're struggling, because it's the right struggle. It's the right thing to do, to take this language and to not only put it into our own self, but also to pick it up and to bring it into other places. We'll bring it to the store, we'll bring it to the restaurants, we'll bring it to the post office, we'll bring it out into the streets of the community. And that's a huge undertaking. And sometimes I know that we might feel like, I'm not getting it. It's not, but it is a building block approach that I feel fairly confident that eventually the pieces do start to come together. And the way that they come together, sometimes you'll hear this long string of Tlingit, and then you'll be like, oh, hey, I understood that, right? It's just like, it's not this thing where it's like, I know how to do this, and then I know how to do this, and then I know how to do this. And then also, like as Juan Klein said, you'll just say something, and you're like, oh, I know how to say that, right? And so it is getting beyond the sort of, the thing that says, I can't do this, or this is way too much, this is not for me, this is, because there's a lot of people, this is the point historically where folks have gotten a little bit stuck. And so this is the point we would want to sort of say, does anybody feel like your canoes run aground? Because we'll all get out and we'll go pull your canoe back into the river. So I made this last night, and we're going to have a little fun with this, and then we'll go around and we'll finish. If you didn't get a chance to go today, I want to make sure we hear from everybody. So just please let me know if we didn't get to you. But can anybody, it's just being silly, can anybody read this first, what this guy is saying? And this is a meme, and so this has nothing to do, I've never seen this show. It's from some show where they build motorcycles and they were yelling at each other. It's people make these memes out of it, so I wanted to make my own. So can somebody just read that for us?
Question.
Okay, so now I'll say and we'll all repeat.
Yake.
So yaktushi, got the translation. Cake, black seaweed is the best.
Yeah.
Can somebody else read the next one?
Andat lak ask tlach aye yake. Yake.
Okay. Everybody, Tlake.
No.
I gotta say the Tlingit. Tlake.
Tlake.
Andat lak ask tlach yake. Do we want to take a stab at the translation?
No.
Where's Tom?
No.
It's good to my mouth.
Yes. Ton is Prince of Wales.
Oh.
Dot, around. So the seaweed from around Prince of Wales is really delicious. And you can tell how angry he is. Anybody want to read that one? Someone else?
Nishtasa Yisiku Gwashesh Achyadich Istip.
Okay. Keshdasa yisaku.
Keshdasa Yisiku.
Washesh achyadich istip.
Washesh Achyadich Istip.
I don't know if they're related, but I thought this was funny. So he says, "You don't know anything. Maybe you're not my son." It's seaweed fights are real. Anybody else who hasn't read? Want to read that? Anybody online, maybe?
Ach wal geest ja kad ja kichet awe ach ich satiye.
Okay, and we'll do this one in chunks. Ach waches.
Ach Washesh
Yakaya kaji.
Yakaya Kaji.
Awa.
Awe.
Ach ish satiye.
Ach Ish Satiye.
You want to take a shot at it?
Think about
Chair.
Chair.
Oh, Ach Ish, my father.
My father.
I wish this chair was my father. And the last one. Reader? Anybody?
Kaji Yadich Isati Ega. The Kade to Akwa.
Okay. Kaya kajit yadich isiti eka.
Kaya Kaji Yadich Isati Ega.
Oops. Ikade atuk akwa.
Ikade Atuk Akwa.
Gotta change the tone. It should be kade. So, what about the first part? Kaya kajit yadich isiti eka.
You're really a chair.
Yeah, you are truly the son of a chair. Ikade atuk akwa. People are going to sit their buttholes on you. It's fun. And this last verb comes from a Raven story. There is a Tlingit. Someone said to me, "You want to speak like you want to speak like the old people do?" They used to say to me, "Itukitqanu." It's like, is it on your butthole? And that in Tlingit means like sit up straight. So I don't know if you middle school teachers and high school teachers want to adopt that. You don't have to. But tuqadda'a is it's a funny verb, and it means, it's very specific. But the idea here is just to sort of have fun with the language, right? Because some of the things we want to do is we want to say Tlingit is sacred in some contexts, and it's just a language in a lot of contexts. And so something that we want to do is just sort of show that we can do stuff in Tlingit. We can have lots of humor. This is inspired by a Facebook group called Yupik Humor. And they make sometimes they'll make things like this in Yupik. They'll also make short videos. They'll take a scene from a movie like Darth Vader, like choking somebody. And the dialogue is just, it's funny because they just make it totally their own thing. So funny. It's got subtitles. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to do stuff like that as well, just to have a little bit of fun. Because sometimes language learning is scary, and sometimes it's intimidating, and sometimes, you know, as you self-assess too. And so you're going to build this list of 23 things, and you're going to do your best to just stand up and recite it. And we've got a month and a half or so to kind of learn it. That's what your midterm is. It does not, and so some of the things is like, don't overthink it so that it's too hard to make it, but just say, I would like to learn these things because I think I can use them. That's probably a really good starting point. Remember, you're going to learn lots of things beyond that. So sometimes when we have to do some sort of project, one of the things that might get us a little stuck is we feel like it's got to be the list, right? Like this will be the next petroglyph that goes out into next to the ocean. And it's nothing like that. It's just, here's one list. There'll be another list and another list. And then we're going to move beyond. You'll still be building these big lists and figuring out how to put these things together in a certain order. But it's all part of the process. It's part of, as we start moving towards whole language experiences, because my goal is halfway through next semester, we just start doing one class in English, one class in Tlingit. So that we're just doing the whole, and that we're finding ways for everybody to chime in, and everybody to sort of say something, and then we'll have chances to sort of, how do we start initiating, talking about more subjects? How do we talk about this in Tlingit? How about that in Tlingit? So those are some things I was thinking about, and we'll also move closer and closer to verbs so that we are doing some of these big exercises. You say, I love her, him, or it. I love you. I love y'all. I love them. I love, you know, and so it's just this sort of pattern building, right? Just the patterns just they get bigger, more complex. We keep looking at how verbs kind of work, and then we'll make sure we're having chances to talk a little bit more about how we're doing, and also to just sort of be able to have chances to speak, try to put things together. It does not ever, don't worry about getting anything wrong, because this is the place to try it out. We fix it, we move along. We fix it, we move along. The mistakes that you're likely to make are probably the ones that are going to help all of us. Oh yeah, okay, I see. That's how, you know, this thing and this thing are getting put together. So now we just sort of make these little, it's just fine tuning. That's all we're doing at this point. Fine tuning, linking more of these things together. And in terms of like, sometimes I think the English brain that doesn't want to share will say, we can't do this. You're too whatever. You're too tired, you're too busy, you're too old, you're too young. There's always something, right? It's sort of like if somebody wants to go get that beer, they're going to find a reason to go get that beer. And I think it's a similar sort of thing. It's a complex thing, and I use lots of metaphors to sort of talk about that relationship. But wherever you're at, I'm hoping, even if you're not feeling confident, don't worry. Like we're all in these canoes, but we're going to pull these canoes together, and we'll be a fleet, which is cool because it's like, it's a fleet of canoes is the same term as a pod of killer whales, right? So we're not going to let anybody drift off, and nothing's going to eat the killer whales, right? So, anyways. Itutayahas awati. Ajoy khaitawe asitowasaku. Haste itikaku. Haste dachkankiyan. Haste yawatlaki. Akaye kwati. Ye Koti you. Just Kwatli Tuwu with the guy, Aya, Kone, Has Sakahi Yeah, Tlingit that was cool, who you Tlingit on the Kakenas Aka away. Kliye Kwati. Aka Juya Shugu awe teat. Ya an a kanachaya yaji yanastan. I kanachaya Kwati. Kakwalku aya Tlingiti Katangi. Just like words of encouragement is, I want you all to feel strong inside, to feel confident and courageous. And there's a confidence that's already there. And it's not from me, but it's from our ancestors, the ones who are the old, ancient, forever people that were in this place. They already put that inside you. Whatever reason you came here to this language, they already knew about it. They already built this path, and we're just sort of clearing the bushes. And so some of the things is, they wanted you to succeed. They wanted you to sort of to go through this certain process. These are things that I believe as a human being. And so just keep trying, keep going, and have confidence that there's this little hill. You're going to get to the top of this hill. You'll be like, yay. And then I'll say, look, there's a mountain. Right? But what I like to tell people, at this level, hardly anybody knows that there's a mountain there. You know there's a mountain there. And so we're going to start going up that mountain. And so, anyways, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Oh, okay.